Hello the boys and some girls, a new PvE mode, a new fun to be had. How fun is this mode? Well, it's fun, but it's short and it lacks progression. The idea is going to be the same as the previous modes. You pick a hero out of a pool of heroes, you go into a match, and then you pick your cards to augment your playstyle. Pretty much the same as always. This time though, we have a new pool of heroes, which is nice because we kind of get to see a teaser for potential future PvE mode heroes. The PvE mode doesn't have skill points, it doesn't have leveling up, it doesn't have increasing difficulty. You play either normal or hard, which is basically the same thing, but hard has a little bit more HP for mobs, and you use the RNG card system from before to change your hero. So who are going to be the hero this time around? We have Iron Man, Hawkeye, Scarlet Witch, Hulk, Black Widow, Thor, and then Captain America. Now you might say, hey, whoa, stop a second. Wait. Those are not all new heroes. Thor is back, he's a returning character, and yes, you'd be right. But this time around, he's actually not relying on his awakening mode, and his hammer throw that he flies with. None of those. I guess since we started talking about Thor, we might as well start talking about Thor. How are the heroes to play? Well then, Thor has two builds. Number one, you have your hammer spin build. That's not the previous hammer spin. This time you right click, goes into the floor, does like a vortex thing, does pretty nice damage, is very boring to use, and it's not really crazy effective because you can spam it or increase too much the size of it. His second build is actually what I found to be the most interesting. It's the ult build. Now the ult build is very good, it does good damage, but it's very reliant on getting cooldown cards. If you don't get the cooldown cards, it's pretty much useless. So Thor is not really that high up there. If I had to make a tier list, it's not really crazy high, because his one good build is very dependent on getting cooldown cards. Now, if you get one cooldown card, it's okay, but you still gotta wait between ults. If you get two cooldown cards, you can actually do a new ult once the previous one has ended. And if you get three cards, you can actually start to stack the ult on top of one another. And if you don't stack them, you can just kind of use them in multiple places. So what becomes of this build is more relying on placement, like where you place your ult, rather than how you do things, like how fast you are, how much damage you do. That's the kind of thing that you play around with this build. For Iron Man, you kind of have two builds, but it's more like one build. I would recommend to play this as one build. I'm going to talk about it in a second. You have your flight thing, which basically you press shift or hold it, depending if you have it toggled or not. And while you're flying around, you're going to shoot out automatically rockets, homing rockets, which are going to shoot at enemies all around you. Now, the nice thing about this is that you have very high survivability because you're flying around pretty fast. You can later on even speed up the flight, so it's even nicer. And your damage is going to be kind of mid, it's going to be meh. It's not going to be crazy, but it's going to be fine. You can kill a lot of things pretty nicely. Now, the thing about this one is that it's not really highly engaging. It's pretty boring, if I had to say so, because all you do is you press shift and that's it. You don't even have to press W. He's gonna go forward. So you just move around with your mouse until the thing is over. You just fly around in circles in the map and that's it. And in certain maps, you can even fly into the wall. And since it's an invisible wall, he's gonna keep flying into the wall, and arrows, or not arrows, actually missiles are gonna actually shoot out occasionally anyway, so you can just AFK finish the fight. And yeah, it isn't really engaging and fun. The kind of second build which I would recommend playing with the actual flight mode is your heat-seeking missiles. It's your C, you press C, you see a bunch of circles or dots on your screen, crosshairs, you shoot at enemies. That's it. If you just shoot at random hordes of enemies, your ammo is going to be done in 1 to 3 seconds. It's that quick, and it takes a while to regenerate. So I would not recommend using it on horde clear as much. I would recommend more using it on bosses, because for some reason on bosses it doesn't really waste as much ammo. For some reason the ammo recharges faster than you're actually using it. So on bosses it's actually going to be nice. When you horde clear, I would recommend kind of toggling between heat-seeking missiles and your shift, kind of go in between once your missiles are done, fly around a little bit, gain some ammo, and then switch back again, shoot a little bit more missiles. Not necessarily it's going to be good. I think it's going to be worse DPS overall, but it's actually going to be so much interesting, and you're not going to fall asleep in between uses on bosses. Because even on bosses in this game mode, they actually spawn a bunch of hordes around them. So if you try to target them once a bunch of enemies are around them, you're gonna waste all of your ammo for some reason. I don't understand why, but you do. So you better kind of save it for the rare moments when it's just like 1-on-1 or 4-on-1, where there's no other thing other than the boss. For Hawkeye, you have a basic attack build which basically deletes everything. It is so much fun. Your piercing arrow, your left click is actually gonna do explosions now. It's gonna become a rapid ability, which means you could just hold down the button and do crazy explosion damage all over the place. It's just so enjoyable and fun to use that. And when you click your ult, it's gonna be even faster now. So you're gonna shoot even faster. So if you combo that with a bunch of speed up cards for your basic attack, he's gonna be just a machine gun of explosions. It is so much fun. I really recommend playing this build. I just don't have anything negative to say about this besides maybe being very monotonous because you're just holding down the left click and that's it. But the sound cue and the explosions, it's just a little bit like a nice amount of dopamine that keeps you happy. And I don't know, it was actually fun despite being very monotonous. Hawkeye's second build is going to be the Sonic Arrow, which is fine. It's not terrible. You can actually get a shield from using your E, which is your Sonic Arrow. And if you get a bunch of cooldown cards with this, you can actually spam your E every 1 second. And what changes is your E is now going to apply vulnerability to enemies, and it's also going to push them if they are not like elite or boss mobs. So you can actually increase in damage with your left click. I haven't really like mathed, I didn't do like the math on this one, but I just feel like how it felt. I felt like just holding down left click on your basic attack build and stacking multipliers for your basic attack and damage, I found to be better than just wasting like 4 points on adding like, what is it, 15 or 25% vulnerability. I just found it to be more fun and better overall. Scarlet Witch, her basic attack build is nice. It does a decent amount of damage, but it's not really comfortable to click because you have to hold left click and right click for like what, 10-20 minutes? How long is a match? It's just kind of killed my fingers to just hold down both of the buttons at the same time. Because it's Witch and you don't need to aim, you don't need to do anything. I literally fell asleep after the match. Like I fell asleep on my couch that's always behind me, like this one here. I fell asleep on this one right after I finished the match. It just wasn't very engaging or interesting. You just hold the button and auto aims just does everything. The second build is actually going to be the stun build. You spam your E and you stun everybody on the field. That's kind of fun, but it does no damage. So you kind of rely on your teammates, but also don't, because you get a decent amount of cooldown cards to actually make this viable, because you need to spam your E. If you don't have the cooldowns to spam the E, then what are you? Just a normal Scarlet Witch with the faster E, that's it. So because of that, you actually get your ult faster, because of all the cards. So you can actually stun, ult, then nobody can touch you or do anything, everybody's stunned. And then you repeat the cycle, you wait for a bunch of enemies to come, you stun everybody. By the time you finish stunning, you already have your next ult, so you ult once again. So, but if you play with other people, they're already gonna kill everybody that's stunned. So you don't really get to play too much like on your own like that. So it really isn't that viable. It's nice, but if you have to think about the damage wise, I would just use the first build for the basic attack. It's just more viable. If boring, yeah, I know, but it's more viable damage wise. For Hulk, my god, Hulk is a beast. He's actually my highest damage by like ×3. All the other heroes I played, even the ones that deals like, oh, crazy damage, no, Hulk comes in and triples the amount of damage. He's that strong. The counter to this is he only has kind of like one build that you can play, because you need both of the parts in order to deal this amount of damage. What you do is you stack a permanent ult form with your AoE from your leaps, from your jumps, and you kind of look like you're a green snot slinging machine with the amount of like green VFX that are gonna be on the screen at the same time. It's crazy. It's nice. You don't need to work too hard. Just hold left click and jump a bunch of times. And if you want, like, throw right click in there, even though you don't need to, because your left click is gonna do like gonna be like projectiles anyway. So yeah, it's nice. Hulk is pretty crazy, but he only has one build to play. So I would recommend definitely playing Hulk. It's a lot of fun. Black Widow actually has two play styles. First of all, you're going to be playing around your ult, which kind of feels very similar to playing basic attack build Hawkeye, just with the cooldown on your explosion and your wave clear. And it's going to be with 3 cooldown cards. Yes, if you have no cooldown cards, this is not going to be viable whatsoever, because this is an ult. So you do need the ult in order to deal something with the character. With no cooldown cards, this is just basically stock Widow. There is nothing here that's actually viable to play. Now the second build is a little bit like unexpected. It's melee Widow. Yes, melee Widow, and it works, don't get me wrong. It's fun, it's good for a bunch of reasons, which I'm going to talk about in a second, but it's just melee Widow and it works. First of all, what it does is it changes your F and your E. Your F is still gonna make you dive toward the place you're looking at, but now you don't need to sprint anymore. You can just look at the place and press F, and what it does, it is also pulls all the enemies that are around you to the front. And the E now kicks all around you, and it also gives you an extra health for every kick that you does, like a certain amount of damage. It depends, up to like 3.6k from what I saw, which is insane. So if you combine this with a bunch of like cooldown cards, you can just spam both of those skills like crazy. You just delete waves like nobody's business. I just found this to be so insane and so much fun. Kind of like playing Iron Fist when you kick in and then you do the hit. I don't know, I just find this like super fun. I didn't expect the build to be actually fun and usable, but it is, and it's crazy fun. I really recommend giving it a try. For Captain America, it's just meh. The bouncing the shield around is really not it. Like, really, it doesn't do enough damage. It's not an interesting mechanic. It's just kind of like playing default Captain America, but with a faster cooldown to your E, because you do get some of the cooldown back every time you catch shield. It's not 100%. They say every time you catch shield, you're supposed to gain like a certain amount of cooldown, but it sometimes happens, sometimes doesn't happen. But even if it happens every single time, it really doesn't make this build any more fun. For the second Cap build, it's actually a ton of fun, and I'm pretty sure it's my second highest damage after Hulk. Your basic attack now are going to do AoE damage, and it's also going to rely on movement, or I think it's called, what it is, I think it's called momentum in the game. Not 100% sure, but I think it's called momentum, depending on the damage that you block with your shield, how much you can stack your E, or your sprinting. All those things are actually going to do extra damage up to a point, obviously. And it's also going to give you this Iron Fist passive, where you stick to enemies with your punches. Like, you punch forward, you get this little tiny crosshairs on the enemies, and every time you punch, you get closer to it. So if you stack this with like attack speed multipliers, you can practically fly after Ultron or after flying enemies. It's very nice. It's very interesting if you like stack this with a bunch of tanking things, and you ult and you E, and you basically use your entire kit. You can survive a lot of time inside the face of the enemies. It's just really enjoyable, and like I said, crazy damage. So I really recommend giving this one a try. And this is practically all the heroes. That's it. We've gone over all of them. Now, like I said, it's a very short mode. You play 1 or 2 games with every hero, and you're gonna be like, okay, I got it. That's it. There's not a lot to be had here. Your other vampire mode is still active, so I guess I know why they didn't do another fully like equipment, progression, blah 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 mode. And I have seen that they changed a little bit. They added something to it, so I might check it out. Not necessarily make a video on it, but I might check it out a little bit. So yeah, I hope this helped you, so you know what to choose now, you know what not to choose. I really hope that if you have a way to play those heroes that I said are not enjoyable, if you have a way to make them enjoyable, if you have a way that I didn't think about how to make this like actually viable, please let me know, because I would love to play those heroes in a good way. I wasn't able to find a way to make them interesting. So yeah, that's gonna be it. Hope you enjoyed this one. If you did, thank you. If you didn't, let me know so I can improve it. So I can simply blah 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 blah. Bye.